G'day guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Wildkard. Thank you for being here and watching my content. I really do appreciate it. You are here today because it's Tuesday and it's time to read some rugby news. So first up, the battle for relevancy continues here in Australia for rugby union. The big signing, the biggest contract that was offered to this guy, a 19-year-old, never won a championship, never played in State of Origin, Joseph Suaalii. He was offered the biggest contract to play rugby union starting in 2024, so it's still 2 seasons away to join rugby union. He's already got the contract. So this guy, some news came out a few days ago that he might get dropped by the Sydney Roosters, his current rugby league team, for poor performances. Yes, I have been watching rugby league for the first time really in my life, the Roosters especially, to see how this guy has been performing. And I watched him miss tackles, miss a lot of tackles, drop balls on the weekend, and almost botching tries for not passing the ball to his teammates, right? So he hasn't been good in my books. And sure enough, the poor performances, especially the missed tackles, has caught up with him. And yeah, there's some talks that he might get sacked for the Roosters to free up some $700,000 to, of salary cap to buy somebody else into the team. And Rugby Australia responded to this potential sacking as an opportunity to bring him early. So yes, the CEO, Hamish McLean, came out and basically said, hey, we made a lot of money. He literally said, we made a good profit this year. You're welcome. We're welcome. We're happy to take him in to rugby union sooner than the contract that was signed for him to join. So yeah, that's what us, yeah. Yes, that makes a lot of sense, right? A guy who's performed poorly, time to get him in to play rugby union, guys. And yeah, so with that being said, the head of Rugby Australia not said that he was to take him in after if he was to get dropped, but also he made an offer to the coach of the Sydney Roosters. Okay, he offered the coach of Sydney Roosters, Trent Robinson, to potentially coach rugby union. I really don't know what to say. The Trent, really nice guy, by the way. I actually respect this guy. There is a lot of pressure with regards to this whole Suaalii issue that he's dealing with right now. There's a lot of people wanting to sack Suaalii. There's people telling him that, rugby union is awful, and he has come out and stuck to his guns saying that, hey, I like rugby union, I have no issue with it, I have respect for rugby union. Joseph Suaalii is still one of our guys, and we will work with him, whatever it takes, until the end of his contract. He's been very professional with this whole approach with this issue, and Rugby Australia has taken that as a sign, apparently, to jump code and play and coach rugby union instead. Made an offer for this guy. But yeah, come on. He's the coach for the Sydney Roosters in the eastern suburbs here in Sydney, right? If you don't know, rugby union is this is the only region in Australia where rugby union is still thriving, okay? So obviously Trent's gonna come out and say, hey, I watch union, I like union, because all of his fan base watches union, right? He has to say it. But Rugby Australia has taken that as a sign to potentially poach him to coach rugby union. It was really funny. And also they made another open offer to this guy, Angus Crichton at the Roosters. He played rugby union in school, so he's definitely a former, has the background and pedigree to play rugby union. Has offered him to jump code as well, in a sort of double offer, one offer to the coach and one offer to the Crichton sort of thing to jump over. And look at his stats, that's quite impressive. That's something of a international test player, 94% tackle completion rate. That is pretty someone that I'm probably, I will be interested to see how he might go for rugby union if he should jump code. And yeah, that's that. With that being said, big offers everywhere. One of the biggest stars in rugby at the moment, Pete Samu, I think one of the best loose forwards in the world right now, is set to leave Rugby Australia to go to play in France for Bordeaux. this has been some talks about it potentially happening for a while now, and it has finally been confirmed last week by the Brumbies. So yeah, obviously Rugby Australia is not able to offer, with all the money they made, was not able to keep the talent to, one of the key players for the Wallabies to play domestically. This was also on the back end of Reece Hodge leaving and a lot of other players looking to leave as well. So yeah, this is, as the talents continue to leave Australian rugby over shores, the CEO will continue to brag about the huge profit they're going to be making and how they're very interested to poach rugby league players instead. Yeah, it is the state of Rugby Australia right now, unfortunately. And Nick White, the current Wallabies starting number 9, the mustache, the actor award of the year, but he's set to go to the Western Force next year, leaving the Brumbies. So yeah, maybe the Western Force has offered him a bigger contract, and obviously the Brumbies is one of the team that he's been played for a very long time now. So yeah, I'm surprised to see him switching teams to the Western Force. But the good news is that he will be staying in Australia and he will be playing for the Wallabies, eligible to play for the Wallabies going into the Lions tour. So he's signed for 2 years, 2026, I believe it was the number, 2025, 2026, 2 years, 2025. He's signed to 2025. And also the Eddie Jones has added another support coach to his Wallabies setup, the sports psychologist, which helped Eddie Jones' team, England team, in the 2019 Rugby World Cup. Corinne Reid, sounds like Kieran Reid's cousin, has joined the Wallaby side for Eddie Jones. So based on some of the work that she's done and based on the feedback the players has given as interviews, it sounds like she's performing more of like a leadership kind of coaching role, helping players prepare mentally from a leadership standpoint in terms of handling situations on the field. Instead of it's not quite the same as the mental kind of fortitude coach that the All Blacks have. So I think there's a bit of difference between her role, and I think this one of the guy that works with the All Blacks that has basically as a mental strength coach, basically, that teaches like resilience. I think her role is a little bit different from what is of the All Blacks. So, but yeah, at least the Wallabies has that now as a setup in the coaching stuff, something that the Wallabies didn't have in the past. And yeah, and that is really important because I do feel like from just as a fan watching from the outside, the Wallabies do look like there's a lack of initiatives amongst the players. Michael Hooper can only do so much as a leadership role. Everybody else, there's a lack of leadership, kind of like core group sort of thing that drives the whole team around the field. That is something that I do feel like the Wallabies need going into the World Cup, which is really good to see that Eddie Jones has added that into the setup. Another good news for Wallabies as well, Quade Cooper has returned to play after the hamstring injury last year. He's finally returned to play for his Japanese club, and he has led his team, the Kintetsu, to beat the D-Rocks in 36-14 win on the weekend. And his team has only won one game this season and conceded 484 points in 16 games. That's more than 50 points per game. So his return, huge turnaround already for the Japanese team, and beating the D-Rocks, who was undefeated or has lost one game, I think, going into this match. So yeah, huge turnaround for him, beating unbeaten. So they beat so not only that, they turned their huge deficit around in the season, but also beat an unbeaten team. So yeah, that's a really good sign for Quade, especially for his prospect going into the Wallabies. And also now the big news on the weekend, the Fijian Drua has put out a huge upset over the Hurricanes at home in Suva, and this was, a bigger win than the one over the Crusaders, because the Crusaders was playing a B team, like it or not. This was a full strength, All Blacks filled Hurricanes team that went to Fiji and lost. Yeah, this was absolutely spectacular performance by the Druas. This was the best performance I've seen out of the Fijian team, and they came in with a different strategy and with added kickings, with a lot of added kicking, much better set piece, much better scrummaging. The Hurricanes has the best tight hair scrum in the world in Terrell Lomax and the guy, what's his name? Owen Franks coming off the bench. So two of the biggest, best tight heads in the world. And the Drua was able to hold their own in the scrummaging, unlike the week against the Blues a week ago. And this was really impressive. And they squeezed out a 3-point win with a kick by Valentini in the last minute or so. Yeah, so this was huge game. Really well done for the Drua. And also the Fijian Drua was beat the Reds, the Queensland women's team, to win their second Super W title. And this was really also a huge performance by the team, especially in the back end of a lot of adversity for the Fijian women's team. They were left with a lack of funding in Australia last week, where the local fans had to buy food for the team because there was mismanagement in the Fijian football union with regards to giving adequate funding for the women's team. So yeah, they had to literally get food from the fans last week, and going into this week, it's Rugby Australia that's been paying for their expenses this week. So a lot of hurdles they had to go through going into this match, and to come out the winners against the Reds was, just the cherry on top with all the things that has been happened to them. So really well done for the women's team as well. Going to New Zealand now, Anton Lennon-Brown, the guy that's the All Blacks has been missing really sorely for the last couple of years now, finally returns to Super Rugby and earned his 100th Super Rugby cap. It took him 2 years to get a 100th cap. So his 98th cap, he got an injury, a shoulder injury, a 98th cap, and he was out for about a year. And then he came back and sprained his ankle on the 99th, and he was out for almost a year again. So yeah, Anton Lennon-Brown has been out for a long time now for the Chiefs, and he finally, took him a couple of years to finally get there for his 100th test. And for the All Blacks, he is a huge piece of the puzzle for the 2023 Rugby World Cup, because that center position has been quite lacking a little bit for the All Blacks. And with him on the field, that dominance of the breakdown, that dominance with physicality, his ability to create space is just, it's a really huge option for the All Blacks to consider now in that center position. So Wayne Smith, the head coach of the Black Ferns, has come out this week and aired a bit of a grievances about his view on Super Rugby, on the state of rugby at the moment. I won't go into it. He basically saying that there was too many penalties, too many set pit plays as a result of penalties, and he feel like there should be some rules being modified. He didn't really give an exact solution to this. He just feel like it wasn't something that he's enjoying. But that's not really. I mean, everybody has their opinion. That's fine with me. What really grinded my gear is the breakdown. Okay, so this week at the breakdown, which is the rugby news for New Zealand, they once again openly bashed the scrummaging. Despite New Zealand having very dominant scrummaging on the weekend, the Crusaders over the Western Force and the Blues over Moana Pacifica to win the game, like something that's really impressive, something that's that showed a lot of talent, a lot of practice, a lot of cohesion for the teams to pull that off. The breakdown openly bashed that for being boring, and they had the audacity to come out and say that on behalf of all us as fans, that we don't want to see this. And these guys wonder why the game is dying in New Zealand and the game is struggling in this part of the world, when, ironically, the biggest show that is about rugby in New Zealand openly bashes the game. Yeah, if I don't want to watch scrummaging, I wouldn't be watching rugby. I'll be watching rugby league. I'll be watching the Roosters. I'll be watching Suaalii. I wouldn't be watching rugby union. I watch rugby union because I like the set piece, because I like watching the scrummaging, because I like the physical battle in the forward pack. Okay, I don't know why this commentary constantly come out and bash the game. Thinks they're popular, edgy. I don't know what they're trying to do. Horrendous. Every week I watch the breakdown, and last couple weeks has been quite good. And then I literally can't I stopped watching at this point when they start bashing the game again. Like, it's disgraceful. Awful. Like, if anybody wants to, send me the Jeff Wilson's phone number, or, what's his name? Sir John Kerwin's phone number, I'll be happy to talk to them about how they're killing the game. Single-handedly doing stupid things like that. You would never hear the rugby league pundits say a bad word about the game, about rugby league being boring. They'll talk about it from every perspective of the game. If you're going to say that the scrummaging is boring, you should have brought someone onto the show and talked about why the scrummaging is not boring. So you have two different perspectives that the fans can consider. That's what the rugby league does. Not just one-sided bash of the game from an official news channel of the All Blacks. Like, come on. And you wonder why the game is dying. Come on, man. Anyway, moving on. I don't want to rant about that for the next 3 hours. I was really triggered. So John Plumtree, the former All Blacks assistant coach that was sacked after the All Blacks losing to Ireland at home, he has found a new home to coach. And this is actually the old home for Joe Plumtree. He will be returning to the Durban Sharks in South Africa to play to coach the Sharks. He'll be taking over the head coach role, and the current head coach, Neil Powell of the Sharks, will be moving to director of rugby role. So yeah, Joe Plumtree will return to South Africa. A lot of people were talking about, a lot of you South African fans did mention in my comments that you would like to see John Plumtree return to South Africa. And sure enough, he has found his way back to where's Durban based? Back to Durban. I don't know. I was gonna say Free State, but I don't think I don't know. I don't know the location in South Africa. Moving on. So England has confirmed their assistant coach going into the Rugby World Cup. So Steve Bothwell has named one additional coach to coach the England forwards. So Tom Harrison will be the new scrum coach for England, and he has also, he's an addition to the other two assistant coaches that Bothwell has announced, which is Richard Wigglesworth and Aled Walters into the setup. So Wigglesworth will be the attacking coach and kicking coach, and then the Walters will be the head and conditioning coach. So that will round up the assistant coaches for England, alongside Singfield, I think is the other assistant coach who worked with Bothwick at the Tigers. So yeah, that'll be the this is a and this one, sorry, I missed one. Tony Roques will be the contact and skills coach for England going to Rugby World Cup. So that's the full setup for England Rugby. Going to Scotland now, Gregor Townsend has extended his contract to 2026 following a relatively surprisingly good, I guess, performance at the Six Nations this year. And there was some talks that he was leaving Scotland after the Rugby World Cup, and there was even talks that he was applying to become assistant coach at France ahead of the Rugby World Cup. So there was a lot of weird rumor going around about the future of Gregor Townsend. But yes, it's confirmed that he will be coaching Scotland going to the next couple of years. Next up, bad news for Scotland. Johnny Gray has suffered a dislocated kneecap, and he's expected to be out of the Rugby World Cup. So this is really bad for Scotland Rugby, as he's one of the key forwards, one of the key locks for Scotland. But he will be out. His brother will be taking over his place, I guess. Next up, Kolisi has completed his surgery on his ACL on Friday. There's some talks last week about him potentially racing to come back and play for the Rugby World Cup for the Springboks. But at the moment, just following the surgery, the update is inconclusive whether or not that's actually going to happen. But they're just going to monitor him and see how he goes following the surgery. Obviously, the big game on the weekend for the South Africans is the local battle, the Stormers versus the Bulls. In the URC quarterfinals, the Stormers beat the Bulls over the weekend at home. And yes, the coach Jake White of the Bulls was not happy with the referee decision. And when I saw this, I was like, wow, referee issues. I wonder who it's gonna be. Is it gonna be Mike Adamson? Is it gonna be who is it gonna be? Carl Dickinson? Who is it gonna be? And turns out it was Jaku Piper and Marius Yonk. Okay, yeah, so yeah. Jack had a few issues with some of the decisions. In fact, he thought there was a few tackles where head collision occurred that should have been yellow carded or red carded, and Jaco Piper and Yonka neglected, didn't issue the red cards. He also mentioned that there was some, blocking going on the field. There was a few issues with the maul where the maul got sacked when it was considered a tackle, but then the players were getting their hands on the ball in a tackle, which shouldn't be allowed. And there was quite a few things he put out against the Jaco Piper and Marius Yonka. But yeah, let me know if you thought that was the case to the Bulls. But he was not happy. I've never seen Jake White, spoke this much about the referees after the match. And he literally went through a list of things. You can go have a look at it yourself if you are interested. So going to England now, the Worcester Warriors has finally been sold to Atlas. The settlement has went through last week, and the Warriors obviously went bankrupt last year for the Premiership team. At the moment, Atlas has basically taken over the financials of the team, but there's no sign that the team will be resumed playing anytime soon. I had a look at who Atlas is. The Atlas UK apparently is a company that provides aerospace products and services for commercial business and defensive clients. So they make parts for planes. So yeah, quite a big company, looks like. Finally, the World Rugby has announced the launch of women's W15, which is a women's 15s competition. This competition will consist of three tiers with 18 teams, with six teams per tier. And with the top tier, basically it's going to be the top three of the women's Six Nations going to the top tier, and maybe I guess New Zealand, Australia, and maybe like one more team to finish off the top six, and then other teams, the bottoms three of the Six Nations will go into the tier 2, and then there'll be other teams filling out the tier 3 competition. So yeah, this is something that Rugby Australia was talking about in 2021, and due to the pandemic has been delayed. But they finally decided that this will be carried out this year after the Men's Rugby World Cup in France. So yes, that's the final bits of the news this week, guys. Thanks for watching. I really do appreciate you watching. And like, comment, subscribe. If you want to buy me a coffee, hit the join button down below. Otherwise, I'll see you guys this weekend for more reviews. Have a good week. Cheers.